begged me to do this, but this is something that, Nicole, you said you hate, a genre you hate, science fiction.
Hey, everybody else likes it.
Hopefully you'll find that has some value. Just as an introduction, TJ earlier had said that she was covering in her work, I guess, 3 things. Was it food, death, and taxes?
Yep.
So she covered, in what she read, food and taxes, didn't cover death. I guess you could say mine covers death, because the main idea of this novel that I've been working on is a guy comes up with a way that people could live forever. So what I'm going to read actually doesn't deal with that specifically. It deals with another aspect of the novel, virtual reality. This takes place hundreds of years in the future, when virtual reality feels exactly like real life. It doesn't feel like a dream. When you wake up, you know it's a dream. When you get out of virtual reality, you feel like you just experienced absolute reality, and there's some confusion. So that's my introduction. The name of the novel is Dreamers and Cloners. At night, he felt the need most. At night, daily focus left him, and he felt a desire for experience that went beyond the normal boundaries, for chaos, for liquid experience, contrasted against the solid of his days. He wanted to rewrite the rules of his life so that everything was extreme. He wanted to indulge in ultimate pleasure and pain, perversion, even immorality, yet also peace and heavenliness, beauty, grace, and divinity. He wanted the gamut of experience. Virtual reality gave him everything he wanted and needed. In virtual reality, he could experience anything, and it all felt just as real as life. He could create exactly the experience he wanted, and there were no consequences to any of it, except whatever wear and tear his body suffered, and of course the wear and tear to his bank account. But he viewed it as a necessary expense. He refused to remain satisfied by affordable virtual reality purchased by the masses, the ready-made environments and situations that someone else dreamed up. Some of those were good, many in fact, and of course with those you didn't know what was going to happen. But his ultimate freedom was to experience what only he wanted and no one else. And if he wanted to add the excitement of not knowing what was going to happen, he could program his story to randomly choose certain events at certain points. He sat back in his chair and breathed deeply, in and out. He always felt a surge of adrenaline just before the plunge into virtual reality. It made him feel more alive. He switched on his virtual reality control switch for the 17th chapter in a 33-chapter adventure he had been creating for himself over the past 2 years. So far, he had crafted 21 chapters. Each chapter lasted 4 hours. Tonight, he would get the girl, yet suffer an injury. His legs would be cut off. He wondered how the pain would compare with the pain 6 chapters ago when he burned off a hand. He shrugged. It didn't matter. What mattered was that he felt satisfied after the experience, satiated, at peace. He needed his daily swim in virtual reality to face reality the next day. So that's the opening. I'll just skip ahead to a part that's kind of somewhat exciting, so it's not just thoughts. Let's see. This is, he's having flashbacks to when he was the novel's having flashbacks to when he was a boy, and starting to use virtual reality as a training to be in the military. So this is him as a boy, about 10 years old. Leighton's mother had not wanted him to activate this particular virtual reality program. It was too violent, she had said. But Leighton knew his father would be proud of him if he mastered it, precisely because it was so violent. If he succeeded, he was on his way to becoming a Class 1 virtual reality combatant, which meant he would be a shoo-in for military school, where his father wanted him to study. In fact, his father had him undergo the virtual reality operation when he was 4 years old, rather early, for the express purpose of preparing him for the academy, the most elite military school on Earth. His father had promised his mother that he would not begin training Leighton in the military arts until he was 12.
Hey!
That's it.
What happened?
Sorry. I was trying to even the lights. Sorry.
Where was I? Until he was 12. Supposedly the early operation was to get Leighton used to the virtual reality environment. But Leighton had of course begun playing VR military games almost immediately, and he had reached the stage where he was starting to show the kinds of skills the Academy looked for. Leighton was playing Game 3 of the program. Game 3 tested the combatant's reaction skills. He walked through various environments, some familiar, some unfamiliar, and had to react to sudden attacks upon him. Right now, he was walking through a very familiar environment, his own home. The problem was that since he was so familiar with this environment, the program made the attacks against him more sudden and vicious. The program warned him that this environment was more likely to give him nightmares than any other, since it was his home. He crept up one of the side staircases, holding his blast rifle steady, pointed in front of him. He heard a noise and spun to his left. He squeezed the trigger and unloaded plasma into the insect-like figure that had been about to choke him with its tentacles. The beast's body spewed acid and clattered onto the stairs, parts of it slithering down the staircase. Its tentacles stretched around Leighton's feet. The tentacles continued to kick, as if still alive. Expecting something to come at him when he reached the top of the stairs, he braced himself, but nothing happened. His heart beat faster. Screams filled the air, and a winged beast was upon him from behind, before he could move. The beast stood on his shoulders with its talons, and it tried to puncture the padding on his upper body. Leighton moved his rifle, but the beast's head jutted out in front of him on a long, rubber band-like neck, and with its beak it picked up the rifle and hurled it away. It fell onto the first floor of the house. The beast's head turned around and stared at Leighton with blood-red eyes, seething with hatred and disgust. Leighton had only a second or two before the thing would start biting his face. His neck and body were well protected with padding the bird could not bite or puncture, but that would make death at the hands of this beast all the more painful. It would peck and bite its way through his face to his skull and then to his brain. Leighton squeezed a free hand, and strings of green slime sprayed out of a pouch in his shoulder padding and wrapped around the beast's head, blinding it and immobilizing the head temporarily. The thing screamed even louder. That was all the time Leighton needed. He pulled a knife out of his belt and punched up at the thing's neck, slicing into it and sending a spray of yellow blood into the air. With his other hand, he grabbed the neck and yanked down as hard as he could. The beast buckled and fell off his back. Leighton threw his body onto the creature and onto the floor and continued slicing and hacking at the neck. The neck was tough and difficult to cut, like several small ropes bundled together. But he managed to damage enough of the nerves and blood vessels that the creature was losing its ability to function. It continued to sputter, scream, and kick. Leighton felt its talons punching against the padding on his legs, but Leighton's body kept it pinned and he kept on hacking with his knife. Finally, the creature stopped moving. Leighton decided to be cautious and continued cutting with the knife, carefully this time rather than just hacking crazily. After a few minutes, he had cleanly sliced off the neck. Victorious, he held up the head and threw it into the air, back towards the foot of the stairs, where it fell and thumped by the remains of the insect-like creature. He looked around him and realized that he was soaking in yellowish liquid, the creature's blood. He was panting, sweating, and he was exhausted. The thought struck him that this was exactly the kind of moment the program would love to take advantage of by throwing another attack at him. He didn't have his rifle. Would his body weapons be enough? His knife? Red dots filled his field of vision, and he heard a beeping noise, first low and then louder. His mother was interrupting the program. How dare she? Didn't she understand how important this was? The images before him faded away to blackness, and then he saw his mother's face in his real home, in his room. Leighton, dear, I'm sorry to interrupt your game, but your father's home. Oh, well, that was okay then. That's okay, Mom. Where is he?